Donald Trump harshly criticized Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, whom he used to admire. Trump bluntly called Meloni a foolish and cowardly leader. And all because Meloni did not support Trump when he criticized the Pope and posted an image depicting himself as Jesus Christ healing people. This is just madness. And it seems that European leaders are already tired of such attacks from the US president. And recently, Trump announced that his allies are ready to support his actions in the Hormuz Strait. However, European officials point out the lack of real readiness for such steps. So it turns out that the Europeans are saying, we're not going to get involved there, while Trump says, everyone agreed. And here it's important to remember that earlier Trump repeatedly insulted them and said that he didn't really need their help. But in this episode, we'll focus on Donald Trump's criticism of Giorgia Meloni. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to the channel and like the episode. Leave any comment under this video and subscribe to my Telegram channel Pichi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So Donald Trump lashed out at the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, his former political ally, deepening the rift because of her disagreement with the US war against Iran, and his criticism of Pope Leo XIII. Trump recently gave an interview to the Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera and said, quote, "I'm shocked by her. I thought she was brave, but I was wrong." And that's what's concerning. No, it's not that Trump is criticizing someone again. Everyone's used to that now. It's just that not long ago, Trump called Meloni a wonderful young woman who took Europe by storm. Trump lashes out at anyone who doesn't support his words and actions. As soon as you disagree with Donald Trump in any way, you'll immediately be showered with a torrent of mud from Donald Trump's mouth. But Trump's recent attack on Meloni highlighted the deterioration of their relationship after Italy refused the United States of America permission to use the base in Sicily for military operations in the war in Iran. And on Tuesday, Meloni froze the military cooperation agreement with Israel, seeking to distance herself from the war in the Middle East. And as they say, what was to be expected happened. The situation escalated into personal attacks. On Sunday, Donald Trump lashed out at the Pope, calling him, quote, weak on crime and terrible. Moreover, Trump suddenly declared that he doesn't need a pope like that. He literally said, I don't need a pope like that. And then he openly started insulting the pontiff, implying that he was elected pope only because he's American. And everyone in the world was so afraid of Donald Trump that they did exactly as he said. That's why they appointed an American as Pope. Trump, if you don't believe me, go to his page on Truth Social and read it. He says, everyone in the Vatican was just afraid of me, so they said, let's appoint Pope Leo XIV as Pope so he can get along with Donald Trump, otherwise we'll all be in trouble. Otherwise, Pope Leo XIII would have never become Pope. And the next day, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called Trump's words unacceptable. Quote, the Pope is the head of the Catholic Church, and it is quite fair and normal for him to call for peace. And he condemns any form of war. It would seem that Meloni's disagreement with Trump's words is quite innocent. Moreover, there are no insults here. She just says, well, it's kind of unacceptable to insult the Pope like that because, come on, he's the head of the church. What else would he call for? Of course, for peace, and he will condemn war. But no, it's like Trump just lost it here. And honestly, excuse my language, it's like he's been losing his grip lately. Something's not right with him. In a newspaper interview, Trump, like a child, said, quoting him, it's Meloni who's unacceptable. It's like a schoolyard. Are you an idiot? No, you're the idiot. She says Trump's statements are unacceptable. Trump responds, and I quote, it's Meloni who's unacceptable because she doesn't care if Iran has nuclear weapons, listen, and she would let Iran blow Italy to pieces in 2 minutes if she could. What kind of nonsense is this? The quote continues, Meloni doesn't want to help us with NATO. She doesn't want to help us get rid of nuclear weapons. She's not at all what I imagined her to be. She just says that Italy shouldn't get involved in this. Even if Italy gets its oil there, even if America is very important to Italy, she doesn't think that Italy should get involved in this. She thinks that America should do it instead of Italy. But even though Trump has alienated allies by threatening to leave NATO and invade Greenland, his statement might actually benefit Giorgia Meloni, strange as it may sound. Let me explain why. The thing is, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is currently in a rather unfavorable position after losing one of the key referendums last month. And more importantly, she is now facing an economic slowdown and a rapid rise in energy prices. Meloni was actually looking for a way to distance herself from Donald Trump, and now this direct attack gives her just that opportunity. The attacks on the Pope and economic uncertainty have likely changed Giorgia Meloni's calculations about how strong her alliance with Donald Trump should be, especially since, as it turns out, Trump's support in Europe is worthless. Viktor Orban, the Hungarian Prime Minister, understands this very well. It would seem that Trump fully supported him, spoke out for him everywhere, even sent his vice president to him, and it didn't help at all. And this is in Europe, you see? They understand that more likely friendship with Trump is not a bonus, it's toxic, and it's better to get rid of it. Fortunately, in Italy, they don't behave as hysterically as Trump does. Meloni, by the way, didn't react at all to Trump's attacks. But the Italian Foreign Minister, Antonio Tajani, stated that Italy remains a loyal ally of the US, but this unity should be built on mutual loyalty, respect, and openness. Here is the quote. "We are used to saying what we think, because that's what serious people do. Until today, Trump considered Meloni a brave person, and he was not wrong because she never backs down from her views. And regarding the Pope, she said exactly what all of us Italian citizens think. And you know, it really takes talent to skillfully turn allies away from you like that." Meloni mostly supported Donald Trump, although at times she opposed him. In December, for example, she stated that Trump's controversial strategy is nationalism. Безопасности должна стать тревожным сигналом для Европы. In August of last year, when European leaders gathered in Washington to promote peace talks to end Russia's war against Ukraine, Meloni asked Trump at that time about the reasons for his desire to raise tariffs against the European Union. Even if NATO allies agreed to increase defense spending to 5% of their gross domestic product, and Trump stomped his foot and avoided answering, and Meloni was not right. She says, listen, let's be honest. We agreed that within NATO we allocate 5% as you demanded, so why are you raising tariffs then? How is this even justified? Trump didn't answer anything. In the end, Trump lives in his own reality. Bloomberg writes today that Trump announced the Allies' readiness to support actions in the Strait of Hormuz, but European officials point out the lack of real willingness for such steps. France intends to discuss this issue at a separate meeting, but the Allies are not ready to allocate resources to establish a sustainable ceasefire. The negotiations are mainly focused on diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict between the US and Israel with Iran rather than on military measures. At the same time, even between London and Paris, there is no full agreement regarding the format of a possible operation, including the role of the Americans in this operation. Diplomats prefer to wait for the development of peace talks before moving on to concrete decisions. France advocates for coordination with Iran and the participation of countries that do not cause tension with Tehran, while some allies consider the presence of the US to be an absolutely undesirable factor. At the same time, Paris and London agree on the need for a UN mandate, although obtaining it is complicated by the position of key powers. But Trump keeps insisting, no, you don't understand, everyone is eager to help him with the Strait of Hormuz, but for now he is still deciding whether he needs their help or not. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, the description of this video says, support the channel Alexi Peachy. Choose any method that's convenient for you, and I'll be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.